I was dating a girl at the time who was sweaty and referred to herself as Swamp Cat. Shout out to Erica.
Hey, what up, Swampy
And so
Erica?
that was named after her.
This is not an example of any form of body shaming. Everybody sweats.
Oh,
It's all
definitely.
good.
No, it was
You know what I'm
great.
saying? Between the decks.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, party people. This is DJ ha-MEEN.
Check. This is DJ Bella J.
DJ ha-MEEN.
DJ Bella J.
Between the decks. Between the decks.
Let's go.
Between the decks.
Let's go.
Yes, party people in the place to be. We're back. Episode number 4. Between the decks. I am one of your co-hosts, DJ ha-MEEN.
This is DJ Bella J.
J.
Hey.
It's been a quick minute since our last episode, but you know what? We are not on a specific schedule like that. Maybe one day.
That's right, we're not.
What you got? What have you had going on in DJ land for you recently in the last couple of months?
So a bunch of DJ camps, which I'm excited about. I was able to take my camp out to Auburn. I was able to work with some organizations here in Syracuse. Then I ended the summer with a bang with the 2nd annual DJ festival at the New York State Fair, which was awesome.
Boom.
So, I mean, it just made the summer fly by.
Yes, indeed. It's a lot going on.
What you had going on?
I'm sorry I had to miss the festival. Actually, had a cruise on Cayuga Lake, beautiful sunset cruise on Cayuga Lake. Shout out to the MV Teal and the Discover Cayuga Lake organization who I'm in my 5th year of doing those DJ cruises on the sunset hour. And, that has taken up some time for me. I had a slew of weddings this summer. If any of the folks who tied the knot are listening to the podcast, I just want to send you some extra love and thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, all these weddings. One in particular, y'all know who you are, but let me just say that the groom got on the mic and dropped a little verse for the audience, and it was actually one of the coolest things I've ever seen happen at a wedding.
Nice.
So I also got to give a shout out to the Rochester Fringe Festival for having me 2 weekends in a row. It's one of my favorite things to do. Shout out to all the people out there doing their thing. Rochester, New York is really is the place to be, y'all.
I love Rochester. Anytime I can get out that way, I mean, their party scene is popping for real.
This is episode number 4, and man, we had got a great interview lined up with the one and only DJ Anthony Mansfield, my man, 50 grand from Hector, New York. He blessed us with an interview that I think people are going to find really interesting, especially DJ nerds out there, really, who want to get a peek under the hood, so to speak, inside the mind of an accomplished DJ and producer such as him. And that was your first time actually meeting him.
Yes, and I want to just double what you said. I want to give a big shout out to Anthony and thank him for allowing us to come into his home. He has a beautiful property out in Hector, New York. It was my first time driving out that way. It was a scenic drive. So, anytime I can get behind the wheel and just to enjoy the scenery on a long drive, I appreciate that. But thank you. Shout out to you, DJ ha-MEEN, for introducing me to Anthony and giving me a chance to broaden, my knowledge of DJs in the area. I was just excited at the conversation that we were able to have together. We vibed. We had a great conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to hear this.
Yes, indeed. So without further ado, party people, right about now, this is the Between the Decks interview of DJ Anthony Mansfield.
Let's go.
All right, party people, we are here for the interview of one Mr. DJ Anthony Mansfield.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. It's been a long time coming. Anthony Mansfield is a native of the Finger Lakes region of New York. And Anthony, thank you for being with us on the show here. Tell the people out there, who are you? Where did you come from? What is your sort of origin story?
So yeah, I'm from Hector, New York. It's a small town about 20 miles west of Ithaca in the Finger Lakes on Seneca Lake. So I grew up here, but right when I was 18, I moved out to California right out of high school. I took a gap year. I did it before it was cool.
No doubt. And, before it was cool.
And so I was out there. I was with a bunch of pro skaters, and I realized pretty quickly that they were like the pre-Jackass people, and that I was like, oh, I'm not sure. Pro skaters that were like blowing up cars and just like
now for
full wild men.
Pre-Jackass, for those who don't know, Jackass was what?
I mean, Jackass is like, they're just south of here. They're Pennsylvania guys that took that like punk rock skateboard, film it, knock your teeth out, kind of stuntman vibe, and monetized on it. These guys were like the blueprint for that.
And Jackass was the blueprint for a lot of stuff you see on what? Social media now.
Yeah, ridiculousness.
Oh, word.
That show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a spinoff.
Oh, right. Yeah, they're all in cahoots. There's a lot of money made. But these guys, this was like 92. So there were some big cameras, but there weren't cell phones. And so they were just doing it because this is who they were. They weren't doing it to make money or to blow up. They were just crazy. And it was funny, but you didn't want to live with these people.
And how did you get in with that crowd?
I knew a guy from Elmira named Jimmy Young who was out there and had turned pro, and like I wasn't crazy enough to like break my collarbone skateboarding. I was okay, but I didn't have the like complete lack of fear that you need to really go for it. And so I met like some ravers, and there was like free outdoor full moon parties. I was like 18. They'd be on the night of the full moon. They were renegade parties. And that was like life changing for me. The parties were wicked. There were 4 English guys that, they had a full support team. Alan and Trish were 2 people that really helped throw it, but they would organize, word of mouth phone tree. And if it was a Tuesday night full moon, it was Tuesday night, and a lot of times the music wouldn't even be on until like 4 a.m. They'd play like, pretty hard techno acid house at night, but then when the sun came up, it would be like disco, funk, rare groove, electro, like daytime music. And that's what I liked that at the same time, Frankie Bones was in New York doing techno parties under the Brooklyn Bridge, but the sun came up and it was still annihilating. So for me, I really resonated with the right music for the right moment. And so that was early education for me. And also became really close with a couple of the guys, made music and put it out on the label, Wicked Music. It was probably one of the last vinyl releases I've had. And yeah, so that was, at this point, 30 years ago. And I wasn't DJing then, but I was definitely like, whoa, mind blown. And sometimes the parties would get broken up, and they'd go up to Golden Gate Park, and by that time it'd be 7, 8 in the morning. The cops would sort of let them do their thing, and it really became a whole continuum of different crews that came out of that initial Renegade sound system. And I would say that my Burning Man Camp Disco Nights is part of that lineage.
Wow, we got a lot to talk about. Just
we got some stuff to unpack.
Answer right there.
I didn't even answer the question. So I guess I'm Anthony Mansfield. I've been back in Hector, New York for the last 5 years. I'm still lucky enough and have gas in the tank to want to go out and travel and DJ. I do throw a few events around here, mostly sort of word of mouth stuff at my house. We do some, occasionally some like pop-ups. We're doing Cherry Street in December. Jesse Hill and I are doing a Renegade.
What up, Jesse? What up, Jesse?
It's a fully licensed party. That is not a Renegade.
Fully licensed.
But mostly, I'm doing a thing in New York later this month. This coming weekend, I'm doing a little West Coast, San Francisco, Seattle run. I'm going to Berlin in October. So
nice.
I've been lucky enough to kind of still be able to do all this stuff. And obviously the pandemic was crazy for everybody. I was in a good spot for political insurrections and plagues, and now sort of getting back into it. So yeah, I'm just an old raver who still has gas in the tank, I guess, and loves that moment of dance floor coming together and kind of the ego dissolution That's really the magic that I still chase.
Well, let's zigzag chronologically here because I wanna at some point break down how you actually got into DJing and what was DJing at that moment in time. But you just talked about having gas in the tank, right? So at this moment in time, in kind of a nutshell, what would you attribute still having the gas tank full at this point, or at least partially full? How do you achieve such a thing? Because I think there's a lot of folks from your generation or older who are like, I'm completely done with that. They're completely disillusioned with DJing or nightlife culture or so-called, young people today or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you still have gas in the tank?
I think there's a couple things. I mean, I've been lucky. Like I never took gigs in the 30 years that I've been doing this, with the exception of a very narrow window. I pretty much never took gigs I didn't want. I did try and like make a living off DJing for a while, and that wasn't like that was like a great.
It's a full-time DJ.
Yeah, and just like I was doing like gigs that I wouldn't have done for $100. We were talking about this earlier, and it was like, because I was like, oh, that's food money for the next 4 days.
Because you have to reach a budget.
Yeah, and so like that. Outside of that, I've been able to really mostly play for people I know and I'm friends with. I don't have a family, so like I don't have kids, so I think that would change things quite a bit if that was in the equation. And for me, I was like, the second it's not fun or I'm not enjoying this, like I'm not going to chase it. And not that I'm even chasing it right now. The things that are happening pretty organically. I don't have a booking agent. I'm not actively like being like, hey, book me, hey, book me. I'm still throwing events. And so that helps. But yeah, I think one part luck, one part circumstance. And then also just, I don't sign up for things that I don't think are going to either be really fun or even at this point, like I like getting paid, but I'm not even too worried about that part of it as long as it's reasonable. That's not the motivator. It's like, what's the part? Is it outdoors? Is it by a river? I just got to play in Boston this summer. It was by the Charles River outside. The kids were going off. It was some old friends, some new friends. It was great. The promoter was excellent. Just like that was shout outs to Rose. It was, it was just like, it was really impressive. And so I've been getting to play some cool stuff. Burning Man's been a big part of why I still have like the passion for it. That's been something I've gone to a lot, and I've done a large scale sound camp with some close friends. And we have, for the music scene that I'm in, it's called Disco Nights. And the music scene I'm in, we're having Carl Cox and Blondish, some huge names.
What up, Carl?
Yeah, just like the really big names, and we don't pay anybody. They know that we're doing it for the love, and they come out. And for the bigger names, we usually give them extended morning sets. They'll play from like 8 to noon or something like that. They'll play 4 hours.
That's dope.
It's outside. We've done some really cool hookups with where art cars come and plug into our system. We've done that with Robot Heart. It's a big mobile camp. So
check this out, right? Like most of what I've learned about Burning Man, I've never been, but most of what I've learned about Burning Man has come from conversations with you. And in prepping for this interview, you and I were talking,
That's right.
Bella J, and you said you hadn't heard of Burning Man.
Never. So when you said that, I'm like, Burning Man. Like, first of all, I couldn't let that term slide. Like, what do you mean?
Fair enough.
Is it literal?
It's not a venereal disease.
No, it is.
And you were just like, you've never heard of it? I've never heard of it. So when I looked it up, I'm like, wait a minute. How did I go this many years in my life and never heard of Burning Man? There's a couple things I want you to tell me a little bit more about.
Sure.
One, you said you identified yourself as a raver. I want to know, what does that mean? And is that Burning Man? Is Burning Man a place for ravers?
It's everything. So the raver tag I sort of use half jokingly, half totally serious. So to me, someone that like a raver just means, you like there is the quite literal, belief in plur, peace, love, unity, and respect. So I actually do really love that as a philosophy. It's, you can kind of mix in some libertarian, don't bother me, I'm not going to bother you.
Right.
And then, yeah, I mean, like I have one of my Burning Man phrases is raving ain't easy, because it's a pain in the ass to go up there and bring a sound system and a generator and throw parties for 10,000 people over the course of 6 or 7 days. So I call myself a raver because I mean it, but I also, it's like sort of joking, but also totally serious.
Yeah.
So it's both things. Burning Man is, this year's it was 60,000 people, but when I went last in 2019, it was off in 2020, 2021. It was 75,000 people. So there were, everything that you could imagine was there. I mean, there weren't equestrian, there weren't, but there were like skateboard mega ramps. There's a Frisbee golf course. There's every kind of like deviant sex dome that you might imagine. There's a human car wash. There's like the best DJs in the world, Diplo and everybody else out there ripping it, playing for free. There's no cash out there except for coffee and ice. So it's a cash-free economy. And I think, the 10 principles of Burning Man, if you've got a chance, read those. People, like, I think that's a serious thing. And there is, like anything, that many people, there's a dark side to it, but there's also like an incredible heart-opening thing. And if you wanted to go see some of the best music and hear some of the best live performers, they're out there as well. It's definitely a DJ-centric culture in the last 15 years. It's been a pretty big DJ takeover. It was there, but it's been really a thing now. There's also like some of the best art that you'll see. And people are going out there and they're either burning it at the end of the week or they're taking it down and selling it. But
and that's
it's insane.
All the stuff I saw.
Yeah, the art is insane. Like just that, but it's hard to get to. It's at 4,000 feet at alkaline, salt flat. It was 110 degrees out there this week with a lot of dust storms.
In what state?
It's in Nevada. It's about 3 hours north and a little bit east of Reno. So it's northern Nevada.
So it's like out in.
It's a salt flat. It's up in like you're going through like the Pyramid Lake region, which is reservations. I should know the names of the tribes up there. I do not. But and then the actual salt flat itself is by a little town that's Gerlach, that's half the size of Trumansburg. It's a little town around here. It's less than 1,000 people.
Small town.
The land that it's on itself is a BLM. It's federal land, Bureau of Land Management. So they get permits. It's actually a Leave No Trace festival, and they really take that extremely seriously. There's people up there right now going over the whole place. I mean, you're supposed to leave. I get like, my camp gets allocated 200 by 200. It's, whatever it is. And we go over it with a magnetic rake and, we go shoulder to shoulder. We get it like pristine. There's varying degrees of how pristine you get it. They then have a crew that is there for another 6 or 8 weeks, like, really leaving no trace.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's powerful. I mean, it's been a really big cultural mover in a lot of ways. I do think that, like most things, the rich are kind of screwing it up. It's always been a place where like the tech people have flexed. That was the first place that, I don't know who took whom, but like Eric and Sergey, co-founders of Google, one of them took the other up there and was like, I have an idea for a company. The first place that Google Maps mapped was Black Rock City. There's been all kinds of different tech, like startup. My friend Pete is working for a company right now. The 3 founders met at Burning Man. That's a very common story. There's a big technical, side to it. And then there's also, just freaks. But I would say there's the Instagram influencer class has sort of made it a little more annoying, but I feel like social media I'm getting older and I just am more sensitive to like stupidity around social media. And so now people are like pushing each other out of the way on a dance floor to get a selfie with the DJ in the background, where things like that, I'm just like, no, this is not why I'm going to rave war for you. Like that's not the energy that I'm trying to help create.
For everyone that is listening, you have to Google Burning Man, the festival. If you've never heard of it, you have to look this up.
I'll put some kind of link in the show notes.
No, we have to. Good idea.
Yeah.
There's incredible just displays of art and of giving. Here's a good one. There is this Michelin star restaurant that there'll be a maitre d' out in there's like a city and then there's a open playa where there's like art and just like, a lot of those pictures that you see with the big expanse, that's the open playa. There's an actual city. It's in the shape of a horseshoe, thick horseshoe. So out in the open playa, there'll be a guy in like a tuxedo taking reservations for a restaurant that night. There's full, tuxedoed service with lobsters and steaks and like Michelin class food. And people know about this. They move it every day. If you find it, it's like hitting the lottery because they only take 100 reservations. They do it, 3 or 4 nights in a row.
Okay.
And people, if you get it, it's like people either will barter for it or people aren't blowing that one off because it's like a big deal. And so, and there's no cost for that. It's just, so it's just like, and there's like, if you wanted to go up there and just go and get like facials, massages, and hair and nails done all week, you could do that. I've had like spa days where we just cruised around and hit all the spas. So
That's crazy.
There's everything there that you can imagine.
And this is fundamentally in the middle. When you say assault flat, is this not just fundamentally a desert?
Yeah.
No trees, no shade, no electricity, no infrastructure.
No infrastructure.
Cell phone service, nothing
They do
like
have
that.
now cell phone service, which is kind of annoying.
Is that
they
pop
used
up?
to turn it? They used to turn it off.
Oh, okay.
They keep it on now, and that's where the Instagram class, they're putting up live videos and pushing people out of the way to get their special shot. That's where I'm like, oh.
But it's just,
come on.
to think about, you just mentioned they have lobster, right? That requires, of course, serious refrigeration.
Yeah.
And, there's
We have 100,000 watt diesel
generators.
Yeah, we have that just for our camp.
But that Michelin star restaurant must have some infrastructure like that as well. So it's a big deal.
But I have one more question about the barter system. How does that work? Because no one is
here's a beautiful
money.
example of the way that the reason that Burning Man is different than Coachella is you go to Burning Man and you're going to bring something of yourself. If you're doing it correctly, you're not just there observing it, you're partaking in it. You go to Coachella, you watch the music. You go to Burning Man, you help build the stage so that the band can go on. So that, in its ideal form. But I think it's been true for me. I've gone a lot, and the years that I've given the most, I've walked out of there feeling the most like charged up, fired up for music still, wanting to DJ, wanting to connect with community, having like, my stomach hurting from laughing so much. So I think the participation piece of it is huge. And I forgot what the question was, but
the barter system.
The barter system. Right.
Things?
So here's one. So we do our camp. So we have a front of house where we have 2 domes. One's like the main dance dome. The other one's a bar dome. We're not charging for booze. What we do is it's 2 pieces of moop, matter out of place, 2 pieces of garbage for a drink. So people who are not always sober are going around our dance floor and picking up boa feathers and a piece of little trash, a bottle cap.
Wow.
They're coming back to the bar, giving us 2 pieces, and then we're making them an ice cold margarita. So in the morning, after we've had 2,000 people,
It's
Just
crazy.
genius.
after we've had like 2,000 people raging for 14 hours, we turn off the music. Thanks everyone. See you tomorrow. And people scurry off onto their next adventures. Our camp is like pristine. So I wish I could take credit for this idea. I cannot. It's
Okay.
Antonia is the Moop Messiah. She doesn't like that name, but
Shout out to Antonia.
yeah,
What up?
Antonia. So we have a UK posse. She's part of that. So other camps took that idea because that's an example of the barter system. So we wanted a cleaner camp. We had something to give, booze, water. The water we just give away, but we're making margaritas, we're IDing people. There's definitely law enforcement out there. So we used to be like, tell us a joke, any magic, sort of get some interaction out of people.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like most people aren't that funny. And so to have them like clean the party as you go, we'll take it.
Right.
So there's a million different versions of that. And I think people's vehicles break and they'll get help from somebody and then they'll like make them dinner. So it's just like there's not overt like, thank you for your help. Here's $200. Don't get me wrong. There's billions of dollars. There's 70,000 people out there. Our camp budget was 6 figures. There's billions of dollars being spent. So I don't want to make it sound like too hippie or too much of like, some, but I'll tell you what, to suspend the value of money for a week collectively, it's fun. And it really makes you look at the whole thing differently.
I'm going to experience it.
Yeah, it's a little bit
it's
like
mandatory.
Silicon Valley.
I don't know about
I'll
next
probably
year.
do
Maybe
it
after.
next year. We'll
Silicon
see.
Valley meets Woodstock meets
That's what
Mad
I'm doing
Max.
that's what I'm doing on Friday in San Francisco. So I have a Disco Nights fundraiser. So that's at a club called Monarch in San Francisco. There's 2 rooms. So we'll do like disco, funk upstairs and more like house and techno downstairs. Everyone's playing for free. We're in debt right now because of the pandemic, basically, because we had a kind of machine in place. We charge camp dues, but yeah, we're kind of pulling out of that, and then we'll see. Like, I have to still have gas in the tank. It's harder for me to get there now that I don't live on the West Coast, and I have the property that I live at, and so now that I've gone a lot, it gets harder for me to like build something and then tear it down a week later and be exhausted for like 3 weeks. I like to build stuff and leave it up for a second.
I think what you need is some young, enthusiastic other DJs who are just kind of like, yo, we need to get to Burning Man for the first time. You know what I'm saying?
But they need to, they
if they serious, they'll get the money together and make it happen.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing.
Look out for that Burning Man Between the Decks episode coming soon.
Yes.
It's definitely a place that, and this is so cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway, it gives you what you need more than what you expect. And so, like, I've been up there where I really was dealing with like a lot of like emotional trauma or things that were like heavy, and that environment peels back the layers on you, just because it's 4,000 feet up. It's in the middle of you got to just the physical circumstances of pushing yourself that hard in that environment. Just that will like break through some layers, and you add sleep deprivation and all these intense moments and whatever else. And yeah, it can be a fully transformative place. I think like any transformative experience, it's like, what do you do afterwards with it that really matters, because anything can be transformative. If you don't do anything, then it's just another watching a movie.
Well, all right, so let's back up now. Going back to you saying that you were, around these like jackass type of guys, and
shout outs to Jim Young.
What up, Jim? And somewhere, somehow you were observing DJs, and then at some particular point, you actually said, I want to do that. Can you talk to us about that origin story?
Yeah.
How did you actually get into DJing, and what was DJing like at that moment in time? Of course, it's going to be pre-social media, pre-software, and I think pre-MP3.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was vinyl. So basically, I was in San Jose, and it was downtown. This guy that kind of everybody knew, who was about 4 years older than me, Manny, had a Wednesday. He was the promoter, and it was like 25-cent beers and like DJs. And so he knew that I was underage, but he knew that everybody at the club, and he got me in. And so he's the one that owns Monarch that I'm going to throw the party at in San Francisco.
What up, Manny?
This Friday. So Manny, and neither one of us were DJing at that point, but he was one of the people that the Wicked guys would call in San Jose. This was south of San Francisco. And he was part of the phone tree, and he was a promoter and knew everybody. And so they're like, Manny, we're doing the party at Bonnie Dunes. It's a beach north of Santa Cruz. And then he would tell his 10 people, this is obviously, there was no MySpace, no Tribe, no cell phones. So traditional landline, and spread the word. I don't even think they weren't even doing like little flyers. They were it was phone tree. But they would get 500 people, and then it was in Rolling Stones, and they got 5,000, and that's when it went off the chain. Then that was too many. But basically, so Manny and I, he was one of the main people that was introduced me to the culture, the music. He knew everybody already at that point. And about the same time, like I would say 92 is when I was going to these parties. By 93, we were we were collecting vinyl and had DJ setups, and we were learning to beat match. We sort of knew what music we were into already.
Which was what?
I would say it was like a West Coast psychedelic house, but also down-tempo, funk, mid-tempo, slower stuff that was like, could be like, jazzier hip-hop end of things, like mushroom jazz, but also, some stuff that's sample-driven, but also with like maybe a vocalist, but there'd be the instrumental version of the track that might be fire, or it might be that you'd play both. And so being able to play both rooms, like I'm doing this party this weekend, downstairs is house and techno, upstairs is like not house, essentially disco, funk, some hip hop, whatever it might be. And so I would say we still DJ well to this day together. We both have a pretty wide range of style that's informed by this West Coast psychedelic dance music sound.
Are there any particular big name artists or songs that some people out there in our audience might know, and they can go, oh, that's what he's talking about?
I would do this. I would say search Jeno, Jeno, and a tape called Bang the Drum. So that is like a seminal Wicked. That's one of the 4 Wicked DJ residents. He's still at it. His Noise from the Void radio show is amazing. He's an elder statesman who's so deeply musically knowledgeable. It's insane.
Is he still with us?
Oh yeah, and he's
What
in San
up,
Francisco
Jeno?
holding court. He's an English guy. Was kind of a punk rocker, anarchist, and he's brilliant. And he's sort of shy in person, but on his radio, he comes alive.
All right.
And his knowledge and his depth and his passion for music is really there. And then his DJing is next level. Like you can't tell when we first started hearing him and Bang the Drum, that tape is an example of this. You can't really tell when one record starts and the other one ends. Like he's so laser precise in his mixing and the programming, what he plays, the programming of the mix is so good.
The order of the tracks.
Yeah. And I think just like that, he is a super influential guy who is underrated in a lot of ways. But he is like the DJ's DJ for so many people that I know. And I'm of that school. That whole crew, all 4 of them, Thomas, Garth, Jeno, and Marky. Who did I forget? Jeno, Marky, Garth, and Thomas. The 4 of them each had really unique styles. And but Jeno was, I think, a sound that was just super influential for house music.
Very dope.
Garth would play more of the disco in the morning. He would be dropping like White Horse. He would be dropping stuff that underground hip hop DJs play as well. But doing it, not really doing that many doubles, more like power fades and not a ton of like hip hop style DJing, more collage work, power fades, but like absolutely amazing DJing for what it can kind of do for a moment.
So it's interesting that you say that. In our previous episode, we were talking with other DJs about DJs from all genres having to pay homage to hip hop. How do you feel that fits in for you in the music that you play?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things. For one, it's true. I mean, and the whole sample-based culture, like that really came out of hip-hop before anywhere. And I think a lot of the music that was from this same super influential era for me was taking breaks from the hip-hop era just before that, which is a lot faster than today. So, and so it was like a 120 and like a faster BPM using hip-hop samples. The chorus is really influential. And then that style of what Jamaica sound system culture that definitely hip hop was influenced by. That's what the Wicked sound system was definitely influenced by that style of bringing everything to make the party. And they were doing that in England previously with their Summer of Love, which was like 88 before there was a federal outlaw of repetitive dance music in England. Wow. And so they clamped down because there was these free floating parties with 100,000 people. They just set up in a field, go crazy. The cops couldn't control it, so it was a big deal, and it like got everyone really freaked out. So they had federal laws that cracked down. That's why these guys came to San Francisco. They wanted the next spot to be anarchists. So it's kind of going off course, but they were absolutely deeply influenced by DJ culture from all the different aspects of it, of certainly how to source from everywhere, of what the collage work is, to the sound systems and having that like DIY renegade spirit.
So definitely the sound systems was, Kool Herc was known for that, right? Mm-hmm. He had the best sound system. Now, besides his skills and what the music he was playing, a lot of people were definitely impressed with how big his speakers were, the sound quality and all that. But what about the technique on how you DJ?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff like for me, I know how to do a little bit of like double copy and phasing, and I'm not scared to go wiki slap and slap something in. It's like the way that Ben DJs with double copies and more of that I don't know, is that even the description? A traditional hip hop lineage of double copies, rock a break. Like I'm not necessarily DJing in that style as much. I appreciate it. I'm doing more like extended blending of 2 tracks where you're not sure, ideally you're trying to create something completely new with a blend rather than ripping through a bunch of breaks and double copies of, double snare work and stuff.
I love to do that though too.
Yeah.
Just long blends, just mashups, blends. You love blends too.
I absolutely love blends,
Yeah.
but it's also still learning that technique of dropping on the one, being able to sync, you're
You're doing it for the dancers.
Together.
I mean, at the
That's
end of
right.
the day, anybody that's paying attention is doing it, whatever your genre is, whether it's house music, disco, dub, Jamaican, hip hop. All of those were for rocking a dance floor. And so if you've got a crew locked in, you better drop it on the one.
That's right. You got to keep it
You're
on
going to
the
get
one.
booed.
That's right.
They're going to vote with their feet.
So did
Vote
someone
with their feet.
So being able to blend the two songs, like who out of you're saying that your start was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Who showed you how to technically do that? Did someone pull you to the side and say, "Okay, we're going to spend an hour a day"?
We had turntables in the house. Our friends owned record stores. We were going out to the parties. It happened pretty organically. We knew the concept of what it was to blend and how to use the pitch, to control the tempo on the turntables. We'd been to enough of around the culture enough to know that stuff. So like there was a whole little crew of us that sort of like were learning at the same time. And I don't think anybody had to. It happened really organically. I did do that for other people. What you're talking about, where
You had to show them.
well, and also like my friend Tamo, who she's playing my party on Friday, and like 20 years ago, she's like, I want to learn to DJ, and I lived with my friend Manny at the time. We had 4 turntables. I'm like, take my turntables to your house. Here's a half a dozen records. Here's how you do it. And so, I definitely like showed her, gave her the gear. And she's still DJing to this day, and she's great.
Nice.
And she's influenced a lot of other people. And like, so I've done that for other people because I've always had good like people that were willing to show me the secrets, and also being like, have you heard this record? Check this out. You'll like this. So kind of all parts of it are not being. I mean, it got really out of control for a while because there'd be so many train spotters, people that were trying to find out what the record was.
Yes.
There'd be 7 or 8 people standing around a guy like Jeno with a notepad going like head swiveling around trying to read the record as it rotated. I mean, it was comedy. And so they would start putting stickers over their
That's
records.
right. Black them out.
Yeah. And so I never, like, I always wanted to, it was a little different then. Now there's so much music, you can't keep up with it. Then there wasn't as much music coming out, and it was a little more guarded. So I sort of understood it, and it was like, go find your own style. Like, you're just biting every record that I play. Mm-hmm. But
There's still DJs that do that with MP3s.
we
They
can do
will
with
not send it
Shazam.
to you.
No, I can, right.
Shazam it changed all that.
Yeah, it did. So, yeah, and for me, like it happened organically. We had turntables in the house. We had like music there that was mixable. We were around the culture, and I think we were all into it. And we started throwing parties pretty quickly. Like we knew how to throw parties before we knew how to DJ. So, but I think like I was around some of the best people in the world, in my opinion, and that we're going out to see them, and I definitely wanted to be good. And when I got to play with those guys, like there was times when I wasn't good, and I was just like, oh my God, like I shouldn't even be on the same bill as this person.
That happens for me still to this day. I'm just amazed by how good some DJs are. Like, I have so much work to do.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You're gonna send me back to my bedroom to practice.
It's good, talking about hip hop, taking it to the elements, when it comes to dancers, right? There's kind of a there's a point at which like injuries start to catch up with you and age and stuff like that. But when it comes to DJing, that's much less so. So I feel like this is the kind of thing where you're constantly growing, and hopefully you never really stop growing and so forth. Now, do you feel like that? Do you feel like you've got growth still to be had, or are you at the point where you are the Yoda and you're basically a Jedi Master teaching everybody else?
I think a little bit of both, if I'm going to be fair, because I know what my sound is. I know what I like, and I'm not scared to go outside of my like genres, and just try and get tracks that resonate with me. But like, so that hunt for like new records that I like, that's ever ongoing. I'm not like trying to ascend and like travel more or come up as a DJ. So I'm like very content with what I have right now. So I think both, like, I know who I am, been doing this for 30 years. I do always think there's room for growth and for, look at somebody like Rich Medina. Like
What up, Rich?
He's so deep down the rabbit hole of knowledge.
Yep.
Like I'm never going to be that guy. Like where he can hear a record, name the sample on the fly.
Yes.
I'm not going to be able to do that guy. So do I think, or to do that? So is there room for me to like learn more and have more depth of knowledge and know more about like both what's going on 30 years ago and what the new shit is in Berlin? Yes. But do I care if they're playing music I don't like at a party that people are going off to? Not really. Like I'm glad they're having fun, but I'm not going to like be like, oh, I have to get these records because people are going off if I don't personally resonate with it.
Right. I love it.
I mean, before this interview, I had to do so much research on you. And there's so many things that I found out, and I have some more questions.
Okay, let's shoot.
So listening to you, we're talking about the DJing, but you're also a producer.
I do some producing. I was really at a point a while ago that I thought that was the path to getting out of town gigs, and I was enjoying it, and I was cranking a lot of hours a day. And I was putting out a lot more records maybe 10 years ago than I am now. I still have some stuff coming out here and there. I have a music studio upstairs here. In the winter, I was actually working on music. This time of year, I'm out messing around with my wood chips and digging holes in my garden. So yeah, I have a couple records out. I was much more prolific both with original material, remixes. I did some edits that I really like. That's if I had like writer's block in the studio, I would just jack somebody and I'm like, okay, I remember how to write music. But there was a whole market for that, and I think there is for hip hop too, the versions, there's mashups and edits of things that weren't necessarily, you put it under a Kraken 808 and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I can play this anywhere. So I still love it. I would say that I have a full-time job. It involves being on a computer and on the phone a lot. So I have to do it when I'm working. I got to do it in the mornings. I tried to do it after work and it feels like punishment. So in the winter, I was doing pretty consistently, like at least an hour a day in the mornings before I kind of get into it. And so I have a bunch of stuff that's like pretty close right now that I'm excited about. So we'll see. Like winter's coming. I got to get back into that rhythm.
For people who want to discover your music, what do you recommend as the best place for them to go now that we're in a completely streaming world? It's not about MP3 downloads.
I mean, the stuff that has like original material, remixes, edits, DJ mixes of various kinds is SoundCloud. Just Anthony Mansfield.
Okay.
If you search Anthony Mansfield on SoundCloud, I'm the first one that comes up.
I'll put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, I just did a set at Floyd in the small room of in Miami at Space that was in March that I really like. It's kind of the first mix up there. It's a slower mix. It starts like 85 and goes up to like 108 BPM. Okay. That was really fun because that was the closer for Winter Music Conference, one of the official events. So they're used to getting like annihilated.
But in terms of other DJs out there listening to this who want to cop some of your music for their crates, do you have a
I don't have a Bandcamp. I'm dumb and don't have a Bandcamp. I'm a big I would go to Jeno Download has been great to deal with.
Love Jeno. They've
been absolutely first class to deal with. They were, when I was putting out a lot of music and I had a label, they were very supportive and really extremely upfront about their accounting and about just helping to push us and that's who I would recommend. I don't know. That's who I like to buy a lot of my music from. Yeah. I'm on some promo pools, but That's the main one.
So that's where the DJs can go to find your music.
Yeah, and then SoundCloud has all the things like the original material, original production, remixes, edits, and DJ mixes.
And Amazon. I saw your music on Amazon.
I was impressed. It's low quality. Don't buy it from Amazon. You can only get a bad quality.
Yeah, don't all the
clean remixes. It's clean remixes for sale on Amazon.
All right. It's everywhere. I mean, it's on.
I was listening to you on Tidal. There's people.
I was on Spotify.
Spotify.
Yeah, I'm out there.
Cool.
Yeah. If I had people behind me, they'd be like, "Get your stuff together."
Well, we'll link some of this stuff, and get you some streams, and hopefully people are interested in really checking. I think our growing audience is really interested in it. Exactly what you're talking about, the discovery. I think that music discovery, that's one of the things that really keeps the fuel in my tank, so to speak, is just discovering new things. And, listening to your music, we were listening to it as we were driving over here. I noticed you had a song called Ode to Moulton. I assume that's Tom Moulton?
No, we used to we had Molten Studios in San Francisco.
I had it all wrong. See, these are completely instrumental, so it's not like there's a lyric saying that, but Ode to Molten, I thought it was something else.
That was like a room that I had in San Francisco above the Hemlock Lounge, and it was a legendary spot. A lot of different people, like Dirty Bird was there. This is all SF, and like Miguel Miggs. These are like Claude Von Stroke. These are people that are getting absolutely ridiculous DJ fees. Are traveling the world all the time.
Well, so nevertheless,
they were all there, and we all had to move out. And so that was like the last song that we wrote, and it was Molten Studios, and it was shout outs to Chris Lum, JJ Rogers, JJ. What was JJ the DJ? I'm blowing it. So yeah, so that was a music studio with my friend JP. We actually had some back and forth today. It's funny that you mentioned Ode to Molten, so we wrote that together.
That's dope.
And he's from Buffalo, but he's been out there for 30 years.
Wow. Nevertheless, shout out to Tom Moulton.
Yeah.
However, that brings me to my next question about, as technology has evolved since you've been in the game, really. We talked about Shazam. We talked about evolving from, vinyl to digital music. You yourself going from a crate of records to a USB drive the size of a stick of gum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, with gigs on it.
Yeah.
Terabytes.
Talk about your own personal philosophy of DJing and how has that been able to evolve alongside the technology, or has it not?
No, it has. So I was a holdout. I used to own a record store and I was a vinyl holdout. But the straight up, clubs kept having turntables set up poorly or in disrepair, and they'd have CDJs. Yeah. So I started bringing backup digital format. And then, when I lived in California, I was going out to Japan. I was only playing vinyl out there, but it was insane. I was going to 6 or 7 cities in 2 weeks, tiny bag of clothes, big bag of records. And so it got to the point between getting to travel a little bit and just the places, because it wasn't like Ithaca where we live close to now, where you're schlepping everything. You got to bring every piece of gear for the there's a few places that have sound systems, but mostly you're bringing in everything.
Yep.
And so it wasn't like that. You were showing up with a crate of records, and things were just, honestly, these places were getting hammered on 7 days a week, and just something would be messed up more and more consistently. So I begrudgingly sort of went to digital, to CDJs. I never played off a laptop. I didn't resonate with that. And then, it didn't necessarily change my taste in music. I was a visual person, so I was like, oh, the purple one, the inside cut on that purple record, so I did, once I stopped, buying as many records and I went to an all digital format. The one thing that I did that I stuck to is I really try to just buy things that I really, really like. I'll listen to things multiple times in a crate before I check out, so that if I'm on the fence about anything, I'm like, no, I'm going to skip it. Because then if I'm lost in my thumb drive, I still know that the quality bar is essentially high. And so you can get confused for a second and be like, oh, what is that? And kind of be like, oh, okay, cool. And then, get your bearings back together. So fundamentally, it didn't change things that much. It made it that I put a little more thought into programming than I did mixing, because now you can mix in about 4 seconds instead of sometimes on vinyl, if you were having a tough night, it might take you 2 minutes to get things acceptable as far as locking in the tempos of 2 records. That in and of itself, it can be a pain in the ass and frustrating. And if you're in a room that's echoey or you've had too many cold beers, things start falling apart.
Yeah. Mixing vinyl is very, very, very hard, party people.
Oh,
but it's worth learning.
We talked about this before we started recording. For any new DJs out there that want to get going, it's a bigger outlay of cash unless you've got friends or the ability to go to a school that's doing it the right way. But I really
shout out to On the One.
Yeah, shout out to On the One. I'm sorry, I forgot that part of it.
Okay.
But I was setting it up. But I think the difference, we were talking about this just earlier, the difference between learning on vinyl versus learning on a computer, whether it be CDJs or a laptop with controllers, is you're really learning to train your ear and less about being, oh, that one's 121.4. The other one's now 121.4 off to the races. And you're letting like, even if you're not hitting sync, you're like sync light, I would call that. And it's so easy. And like, I feel like it's made the bar to entry of what a DJ is now a little bit like too easy, but you know, that's okay. The more the merrier in a way.
But that takes me to my next point. When I learned how to DJ, I went through a year program, was done with the DJing program, and I immediately wanted to go into producing, and they told me, no, you cannot. We're not
you
gonna
listened
allow
to these
you.
people?
I did listen to them. I just started DJing. They said because I needed to train my ears. So being able to do that, how did that affect you because you were a DJ first?
Yeah.
Then you went into production. So is it that training your ear, that listening to music, did that inspire you to become a producer?
Yeah, and I think especially like when I got into it in 92, like they were playing records that even at that point could be, 10 years old or older. They didn't need to play the newest. And also the other thing that was kind of crazy about San Francisco in that point was it had gone through AIDS and a lot of people had died. And so when there was this, the English invasion of the dance music, the DJ culture, there was a lot of insane record collections in the thrift stores. And there was a lot of really cheap apartments that were beautiful in San Francisco at that point. So they were playing these records that they were making into a new record by mixing them. But when you sort of just listen to the record on its own, you're like, this is really simple. And wait a minute, I know that hip hop song they're sampling. That's Eric B and Rakim, or whatever it was, and so because of the DIY aesthetic of a lot of the music and they were making it more magical than it was pretty apparent early on that you're like, oh, this is like something you can learn to do yourself. You don't have to be a classically trained musician to make the whole damn thing. And so, and I wrapped my head around like the MPC pretty quickly. Friend had one, those touch sensitive pads. I figured out, and I was like, oh, okay. And like, I had a Space Echo, like a outboard piece of gear. You could dub things out. The reggae bands in town still use those. The 201.
What up, Kenny?
Yeah, and so pretty quickly, I would say it wasn't that quickly because I knew early on that was a way to be more than a local hero for DJing. It was a way to play in England or in Germany or in Japan, was to put out records. And I enjoyed it. The social moment was really fun. The best records I've made have been with other people. I've done some solo records, but the ones that got played the most and were the most fun, that we had the biggest laugh making, were always with somebody else. And it was always like fast and joyous was how we like to write. And people that I didn't have that experience with, I pretty quickly was like, I don't really want to work with you anymore.
Nice.
No, because I've seen other people, it's not even just that, people that get hung up on like a snare. And it's like, no one cares. Like on a dance floor, on a mixtape, like if that's the perfect snare, they just don't want it to like hurt their ear.
Right.
And beyond that, they want to like have fun, or if it's hard techno, they want it to be serious, whatever it is. But they're not worried about the tonality of one drum. And I saw people, I had this experience myself in the studio, get really hung up. And I do get it. Like you want things to pop the right way and be clean or whatever. If you want it to be dirty, you want it to be like right. But you can really squeeze the creativity out of a moment if you're trying to tune something that you can just replace so easily.
Focusing on the minor things, you're going to kill the vibe.
Analysis.
You're just going to kill the vibe.
Analysis paralysis.
I'm getting into music production just by using my mixer. I have an S9 Pioneer mixer that I'm using. It has like the loops. And,
cool.
So just taking different lengths of a loop and creating a remix to a song. That's kind of how I'm starting off.
Cool.
But,
I mean, just coming at from that ear and of understanding how to use, like you're coming at it from I wish this song repeated here because I would have more time to do what I want to do with it. You know, and
or I use it as a base.
Yeah.
I'll just
build on top of it.
I'll do, like a.
Do you record it? Are you able to record it?
Yes.
Cool.
I record it for like 3 minutes, and then I'll go back and then re-record another layer of a different loop on top of that, and just kind of remix the whole song with like 7 to 8 layers
of
different loops.
This is within Serato.
Within Serato. That's right.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's how I'm doing it.
There any way that you can make it work? Like people are like, oh, what programs do you use? I'm like, I've used a lot of different stuff. I'm a live guy these days, but I've used Pro Tools. I've used Logic. Those
Fruity
programs are great. I've used Fruity Loops. They're all, I think it doesn't really matter if you get comfortable and trying to like keep up with every piece of gear, every piece of software, every program. You're never going to finish anything. It's like you find something that works for you, and if you can go do something, I think that's more important. And what I was talking about earlier of being consistent, of doing at least like an hour a day, like when you were learning to DJ.
Yes.
For me now, with 30 years under my belt, like I can DJ in any state pretty much.
Right.
There's a few states that I'm not going to get into right now that are tougher.
No
but
doubt.
in general, like I can be happy, sad, tired, drunk, and I'm fine. With producing, with making music, I have to be in a really nice headspace, and I have to not be tired, and I can't have a lot of anxiety or dealing with any sort of depression or too much on my plate. Like I really have to be in a good headspace. It took me a long time to figure that out because I was trying to force it all the time, and I'm like, this all sucks, and I'm like, yeah, because you're not in a good headspace. And so
That's important.
Yeah, for that in particular, because I don't think I'm a master of producing, and so for me, like I do feel like for what I want to do with DJing, like I can do that. But, I can do it on no sleep and like a complete, like just gotten in a brawl with my family or something, and I can still DJ. I can't no sleep in a brawl with anybody trying to make original music. Forget it.
So, I've always thought about how I wanted to, get into production just because I have a sound in mind. I can listen to a song and then I can kind of take how I want it to sound differently, or just make it, make something completely different. You would never even know of the song I sampled, right? But one of the things that I did not think about after researching you is what I would name that song. You have some of the most interesting song titles.
We're always struggling.
How in
That's
the
harder
world?
than making the song is coming up with some ridiculous names.
Looking at some of your songs, Jackal Clap, the Bluetooth to Another Dimension, Swamp Cat. There was one
those
that's
all have
Two
good
Girlfriends.
Okay.
Two Girlfriends. That's the name of a song. And then here I am
Those all have
listening.
great backstories. Like I want to rip through those. Okay, really quickly. So
Yes, tell
Two
me.
Girlfriends is my friend who's now married to his girlfriend at the time, is now his wife. But we were spending a lot of time in the studio, and I'm friends with her too, and we're all like jokesters. And so I was like, oh, I'm the second girlfriend. And so that song was named after that ongoing joke of him having two girlfriends, me and Pookie. So that was JP that we talked
Shout
about
out to
earlier.
Pookie.
What up, Pookie?
No, because that's the Bluetooth to Another Dimension is because at that same studio at Moulton, it was in a pretty gnarly neighborhood of San Francisco, like the Tenderloin area. And there's a lot of people that both had like mental health issues, but were also like probably smoking meth. And so you'd see people out on the street like having these very complex conversations. And it was like when you first saw Bluetooth and people were having like crazy cell phone calls and you didn't know what they were doing. You just thought they were crazy.
Right.
Well, this is literally people having a Bluetooth to another dimension. So that we were like out getting a cup of coffee. We're struggling to come up with a name for a song. So that's how that one came up.
You got to look and see. Do they have an AirPod on?
Jacko-
Or not? 'Cause
Right.
I don't know what's going on with
Who are
this
they
person
talking
right
to?
now.
That's the exact reason why I still don't use AirPods. I won't do it because
I hold my phone
I
up
need
to
people
my
to see
mouth
me holding
like
my
I'm on-
phone.
Yeah.
Jacko Clap, that was a song that had a sample that the original song had a clap in the title. It was something else. So that was like jacking,
Okay.
like carjacking, but we were sample jack. So Jacko Clap, and then I forgot what the other one was that you mentioned.
Swamp Cat.
Oh, Swamp Cat. I was dating a girl at the time who was sweaty and referred to herself as Swamp Cat. Shout out to Erica.
Hey, what up, Swampy
And so
Erica?
that was named after her.
This is not an example of any form of body shaming. Everybody sweats.
Oh,
It's all
definitely.
good.
No, it was
You know what I'm
great.
saying?
No, she's a lawyer. She's fire.
Oh, no doubt. Let's talk about culture. All right, so
The culture cut in.
when it comes to DJ culture, I feel like that's a reference to the sort of global community that we now have. It goes beyond age, it goes beyond genre, it goes beyond language and geographic boundaries and so forth. And as you've become, I don't know if you view yourself as an elder statesman within DJ culture, but when you think about the idea that somebody born in the year 2000 4, 5, 6 is getting into DJing and getting gigs right now. You are an elder statesman with a lot of wisdom and knowledge to impart. What are your reflections or meditations on DJ culture, DJ community worldwide? Because you've been in lots of different places. You've experienced lots of different scenes. What are your thoughts?
Man, I don't want to go out and get negative on this, but I do think that the pandemic has been really hard on the continuity of DJ culture. San Francisco is a real example of this. I think it's hit other cities, but there was one of the most coherent dance music scenes in the U.S., maybe next to New York, in San Francisco. The people from 30 years ago and the people from 20 years ago and the people from 15 years ago all knew each other, were supporting each other. The people in the last 3 years don't know about any of the previous history outside of maybe Dirty Bird.
Wow.
So I think that is a side effect of the bedroom Twitch DJ. So I do think that it's amazing that people were able to continue to connect with people in music and to provide a sense of community in whatever form it happened in those chat channels. And that as everyone was locked up in their houses going, losing their friggin' minds, myself included, that happened. The downside to it is that a lot of people don't know how to DJ that blew up because they don't have fundamentals, because they're just, the controllers make it so easy, the sync, and it was a matter of getting their 100 friends, their 1,000 friends, whatever the numbers were, to go in there and like it and have a moment, to have a chat. So I do think that, unfortunately, the bigger picture is that there's a crop of DJs that don't know their history in their scene, in their city, or the bigger picture of who Larry Levon is, who Cool DJ Herc is, some of the, who Fatboy Slim is,
Right.
Whatever it might be. So that's part of it, where there's an explosion of bedroom DJ culture, which I think is not purely a good thing. I think there was a downside to it. And I think right now, as uncertainty drags on, now that things are coming back, hopefully that people will start to, and I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, you have to know everything that happened before you, but you're standing on the shoulder of giants. You should know something.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope that the kids that are 20 and 21, there's amazing books. Love Saves the Day is about New York in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And it's very specific to New York, but that was when all the different genres were smashing across, and the uptown kids and the punk rock kids and the band kids and the disco kids and all the different races were all intermingling. That creative period when New York was imploding, I mean, it was going bankrupt, and the 5 boroughs were on fire. That creative output in that period influenced the whole world.
Yeah.
And it's, so to know about what was going on there with Nicky Siano and just all the different little subgenres and of David Mancuso and like what each different person was doing, and they have the playlists in there. Knowing that history for new DJs, and there's the equivalent for other genres, is not just like the stuff that I'm into.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, and I hope the people that are passionate about music and aren't just trying to do it because they can be trending on Instagram or an influencer, and are doing it because their hearts are in music. And part of that is, you don't have like jazz musicians that don't know about the folks from 100 years ago. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but the real heavyweights. And so I think it's important that DJs put more time into just figuring out like what's tracking on Beatport and know who was doing what 30 years ago. And so in that respect, elder statesman, I know that there's a lot of people that that I'm certainly was influenced by, and I feel like, well, I still do want to throw parties, and the reason that I want to throw parties, I think the my backstory for that is absolutely in these people who are before me and had bigger, imprints, bigger impact.
At what point do you think that you actually started to value learning about what came before you? Did that happen when you were first getting into DJing, or did it come as a result?
Early. I had some really deep record heads around me that, and so I think, being around a scene like San Francisco or even or New York in its heyday, where there's a lot of people who are really good and are all pushing in a little bit different ways and are keeping everybody's skills sharp. And, it's like there's a lot of choices for people that are gonna get booked and go out there and you know, be the on a bill. And so I think like, yeah, there's been times around in Ithaca where we could get 1,000 people out to a party, you know, for a DJ party.
Right.
And there was Ithaca's heyday, I think, was like 1990 to like 2002, something like that. There was at the State Theater, at the Masonic Temple that I ran, there was, you know, we did 1,200 person 3-room parties, drum and bass up in the temple room, techno in the back room, and house in the lounge.
This.
Oh my God.
I missed it too.
In those days, that's when Syracuse was doing pennies, and there was a pretty serious underground dance music scene in Syracuse. Binghamton had its own scene. Certainly Rochester, Buffalo, there was record stores there. So Rochester and Buffalo, they had some continuity over the last 30 years. There's like somebody like Rob Morley who's doing the Bug Jar and doing like bringing heavy hitters.
What up, Rob?
Rob Morley, shout outs. You know, he's a true believer. He's like a lovely person. And so, but there was like an equivalent in Chad Roy in Syracuse. He's not really DJing anymore. And I think he's building skate ramps though. He's still out there building community and doing his thing. So.
Right.
Now I have a question about something you just mentioned, the skill of the DJs and all these DJs that are popping up. I read something really interesting yesterday. First I want to ask, the article that I read, it placed you in the category of psychedelic dance music. Do you identify as being a part of that
I do.
genre? Okay.
I don't use that tongue in cheek, and happy to like break down what that means to me if you want.
Please do, because I have a question about it.
Yeah, do you want to ask the question first?
Well, yeah, because the article that I read stated that the skill of the DJ can kill the genre of psychedelic dance music because it's supposed to be like this ride that this music takes you on. It's supposed to be an experience where the transitions that you do between songs is not supposed to be quick. It should be like a minute, 2 minutes. It should be a build up, a bring down. It should be this type of experience. And the guy that wrote this article stated that the DJs that are getting into this music and don't know what they're doing, they're not giving the audience the experience that they should have, right?
Oh, that's a loaded statement, isn't it?
The DJ should enhance the trance, or it should enhance the experience of the music. So you're mentioning DJs need to focus on their skills, right? Not just for social media or for TikTok and become locally famous.
And I think for me, part of what I'm talking about for that is what we were chatting about a little bit ago about what quality of file are you playing? If you're playing a record, are your needles new?
Gotcha.
And are you playing like a crappy MP3, or are you playing something that's a high quality file that's not compressed? Whether it's a wave or an AF.
What you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
so this DJ specifically like being able to blend like the technical part.
I think he's talking about I think there's two different things. My thing earlier was like a lot of the people that are the bedroom DJs that I was being a little bit like grumpy old man about. I don't think they're playing, when I've heard it, it's like the sound quality of what they're playing isn't very good. There's another thing that I think comes with just experience is how you program the evening, how you play a night. Because, now I've played 10-hour sets. I've played plenty of 3 and 4 hour sets, and more hour sets than I would have liked. But to do more than an hour, like you better put some thought into it, and it's gonna change how you DJ. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to Berlin. Both sets will be 4 hours. That's so different than like banging an hour like I'm going to do in San Francisco this weekend. That's my own fault. That's my party. I'm just trying to get everybody on there. But
the article mentions that they also are putting these lineup DJs on that's killing the set. You need to be able to do at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
You need more time in order to create the experience. And if they don't change that and enhance their skills in how they lay out music, being familiar with how to play the music, they're going to kill the genre.
Yeah, and I don't even know if, there's like side trance, that almost sounds like they're describing that. That's not what I do. But for me, like, and this is maybe just my own definition of things, and I don't know if other people would agree with this, and I don't really care. But for me, like, we don't care.
We want to know what you think.
The reason that I like that phrase, why I feel like it's a good description for me, is what originally when I first sort of had my mind blown at Bonnie Dunes, this beach on a full moon, and they were playing pretty crazy hard music at night, sun comes up and it goes into this lighter, slower, funky sound. And to me, both of those were both a part of that description. It's the right music for the right moment. And also like having enough ability to like read a room and to look around and to see where people's heads are at. And if you're outdoors, is it pitch black or is there a full moon? Or is the sun about to come up or go down? Those are always powerful moments. Sun ups and sundowns, where I think you can cast some extra spells. But I think those thinking about how you're gonna program that sort of a moment, you're not gonna learn that in your bedroom, and you're also not gonna learn that in their first year. That just takes time. That's getting better at a craft and getting different experiences under your belt and playing a lot of crappy gigs. Like you have to play a bunch of crappy gigs.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's like, like anything you have to go through, paying your dues. You gotta fight some glass Joes to get to you know what I'm saying?
I have a new way.
What's his name? Mike Tyson and them.
Oh right.
Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Okay.
For all you young kids, I'm trying to be relatable with my video game references.
So I will say this, my mom, I had a local gig at a winery this summer. So I usually do about one a summer. I'm not trying to hustle too many of those, but I was at Atwater Winery and they have lovely wine. It's here on Seneca Lake. And it was an afternoon gig. It was like 4 to
What up,
7.
Atwater?
Yeah, and they're doing DJs there. And so my mom was like, "Are you excited?" And I was like, "Well, not really."
Wait, hold up, real quick. Shout out to your mother.
My mom, Elaine,
right.
what's up?
What's up, Elaine?
Shout out to her.
You know what?
Born in the same hospital as Ben in Detroit.
We were born in the same hospital. We found that
figured
out first
right
conversation we having right out here at one of his parties. His mother was there and was like, blah, 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 blah. I said, I'm from Detroit. I was, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. She said, me too. And then, wow, breaking it down. Born in Henry Ford Hospital right across the street from Motown, USA, really.
Yeah,
What?
she's a lovely woman. Her ElaineMansfield.com is her blog that's on like butterflies and all kinds of stuff.
That's going to be in the notes.
So
She's a
going to
great
show.
writer. So check out her stuff. And
Very dope.
she was talking to me about, are you excited about the gig? And I was like, no. And she was like, kind of like confused by that. And I was like, listen, like 30 years, my new meditation on expectation around gigs is to have no expectation. Then if it's good, you're stoked. And if it's not good, you're like, I didn't have any expectations. So it's
Right.
just a little like
That's
spell
real.
to cast
That's
on myself.
real. That's
So
real.
she's been using that. She's been using that now. I'm like, wait, all right, cool. Yeah. So my thing is I don't want to be harassed when I'm DJing. I just want to do my thing. I don't want people to ask me to play records, even if I love the new Beyonce. Like,
Yo, Anthony Mansfield, you got that Mo Bamba?
I don't know what that is, but I mean, I
You
probably
don't want to know. You don't want to know.
So I'm glad he said that because we talk about that. They're pet peeves.
Pet
Right?
peeves.
Right? The things that
You
DJs
must have some
do
other pet
not
peeves.
like.
Well, my thing too, like at Atwater, I played a couple records that I knew were like. There's a Willie Nelson cover of 9 Inch Nails that I have an edit of.
What?
Yeah, and both songs. Willie's got his voice, and the 9 Inch Nails song. So I knew that people would know that, but I'm like, okay, this is a gambit because all the other stuff that I was playing was more like Balearic, that Spanish island where it's more like, because it was like a wine drinking crowd. They're not there to like, it's not there to.
Ibiza type stuff.
Yeah,
right?
it was like chill, drinking wine. There's a view of the lake. Although there was one family that was so into it, they were dancing, and the kid who was probably 10, I was like, oh no, here it comes. And he's like, what's the name of the song? And I'm like, I showed him, I just hit the info button, and I'm like, he had a cell phone. I'm like, oh, do you want to take a picture of that? He's like, no, I can remember it. And I'm like, oh, right.
That's dope.
The glories of youth. You can actually remember it.
Because he thought he could have been coming up to you to make a whack request.
I did. Speaking of Beyonce, I got
He said Beyonce. Yeah.
Oh, I did. What did I
He
did.
did.
I thought I
He
did.
did.
He did.
Well, no, because this 10-year-old, a different 10-year-old girl, before I'd even started playing, this summer, this is like a month ago at Atwater, and she's like, do you have any Beyonce? Do you have single ladies? And I was just like, You didn't even request the news. You weren't even born.
I
when Single Ladies came out.
I recently told a college student who was making a request. I said, "Your requests are breaking my soul. These requests are breaking my soul." She was like, "What? What?" Anyway,
Didn't get it.
No, she didn't get it.
They
Well,
never do.
and you, I haven't heard you play, but I know Ben is like you will smash in some stuff that the
Yeah.
kids, like
I'd rather have people happy than have an empty dance floor.
Yeah.
So with these requests, it is about, I put the medicine inside the dog food. Don't worry.
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying? But when I drop a request like that, I'm like, all right, cool. This is what they need to hear to get going.
also like-
And we live in a college town. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people. I love to play for people in my generation, though, because they're,
Yes.
once in a while, can I get the wobble? But all right, that's cool. But it's not Mo Bamba. You need to look that one up. Worst song I've ever heard in my life. You don't need it.
I don't need it.
Ugh.
I don't need it. What are those
I have to
I
weevils?
actually play that song.
I gotta unpack my Mo Bamba
At the
trauma.
SU games, they love it.
I see. That's the thing. They love it.
love
Anyway,
it.
whatever. Let's not get off on that tangent. Let's not do
It's okay.
that.
We can get off on a tangent.
Oh yeah. All right.
But I mean, I think there's a lot of different styles of of DJing, and if your job is to get a Syracuse sports crowd fired up, you're not going to be playing like super nuanced techno.
Willie Nelson.
Well, you might. Willie Nelson might get people fired up. But yeah, I mean,
Never
it's
know.
gonna be Drake's new joint, and Drake's awesome. But I'm not. I'll listen to it. I don't want to play it.
What up?
Well,
What
I
up,
do.
Aubrey?
I do use the techno EDM style songs, like right when we're going to halftime or going
Yeah, you
into a
gotta get 'em
timeout.
fired up.
To get them all fired up, you have to have a whole list of the what they call the pump up songs.
Oh, but they're
Gotta use those.
what are the it's
Jock Jams.
Jock Jams. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
those are
don't play
catchy.
that too often.
Yo, DJ, pump this party.
Out of the season, I may
Yeah.
play it once.
I used to go to the Warrior games a
See,
lot, and our friend who died was the DJ.
Oh.
We're all headed
Rest
that
in
way.
power.
Yeah, this is a long time ago, but he was an underground DJ, but when he played at the Warriors, like he was not playing underground music.
Hey, yo,
Doing
shout
it
out
well.
to the Dubs,
Yeah,
That's right.
world champions.
yeah.
Listen, we are having a lot of conversation here, and I do feel like this could go on for another 3 hours. But we always tell our audience we're really not trying to beat you over the head like that
Fair
because
enough.
your commute is probably 10 to 30 minutes long, and we don't want to have a 6-hour episode here. So we were getting into pet peeves a minute ago. And did you finish answering that? Because
My pet peeves are just people spilling their drinks on mixers.
oh god,
and really being at an underground party and requesting like music that's not being played. Like if it's at a winery, request away. If it's like Dancing by the Charles or a disco nights party in San Francisco, you should just be quiet and enjoy.
Enjoy the
You don't have
moment.
to be quiet, but just
Trust the
learn
DJ.
hear some new music that maybe you haven't heard before, or some classic jams that you like, and trust that you're gonna have a nice experience. And let us cast a spell. And,
love
and
that.
anybody that's requesting something, I'm always like, how many times do you think you've heard that song?
yeah,
1,000?
yeah, yeah.
So,
well,
all
it's
good.
a little.
I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
That's just going to be my quote.
Cast a
from
spell.
Anthony. Let us cast a spell.
I love it. That might be the name of this episode. to
Well,
be
you can
honest
use
with
that.
you.
Great idea.
Yo, speed round. Favorite DJ of all time.
Harvey, DJ Harvey.
Wow. Best city to play in.
Phew. I mean, I'm biased. San Francisco.
San Francisco. Best party you ever did was in which decade?
I mean, this decade, baby.
All right now.
All right. I thought he was going to say 90s.
Nah, that I did. I mean, the stuff that I'm doing at Burning Man that's the high water mark.
Weirdest thing you've ever seen at Burning Man.
Oh, I mean, can I say whatever on this?
Just don't curse. Just don't curse if you can avoid it.
I mean, is fisting cursing?
I don't know.
You saw that.
I am not putting
I
that.
hope that was
People
just a
get pretty
one-time
weird.
thing. I hope it was a one-time
I am
okay,
thing.
not putting that in the show notes.
No, all right. Let's go. Let's
I've been
revisit.
there 16
Weirdest
times.
thing. Let's revisit. Weirdest thing I've ever seen, and someone that I had to disarm was a hatchet on the dance floor.
Oh my lord.
Wow.
Oh my lord. Hatchet on the dance floor has got to be the title.
We had signs the next
title
year.
of one of your
We had
tracks.
signs at our camp the next next year. No hatchets on the dance floor.
Last question. What is a swamp rave?
A swamp rave. Well, I live in upstate New York and it's wet here. And
You don't just live in upstate New York, like you live in
well, I'm getting there.
upstate
I'm
New
in
York.
my neighbor is the National Forest, and I have a swampy piece of property.
Yep.
And I like to do some parties here, and so that was a kind of tongue-in-cheek name that stuck. And yeah, I did Swampy Man. I did 2 years ago when the Burning Man was canceled, and we had like an effigy that the ladies turned it into a woman, which I thought was appropriate, that we burned. That's part of the Burning Man ritual, to burn the man on Saturday.
Okay.
So, so now I only really did one party. I did Sunday, July 3rd at my house. And it was a little more mellow. It was about 40 people, but it was perfect. My mom was here. My brother was here. Closer to the house because I have a lot of land, and so we usually do the parties down by the pond. It's a really nice little spot under the trees. So
Nice.
Swampy Man is a state of mind.
I love it.
Between the decks, we'll be at the next one.
Yes,
Yeah,
We're
we'll
gonna
get
be
you
at the
guys.
next one.
I'll have you
Let's
come
make that
down
happen.
and play.
Anthony, man, I want to tell you what a joy it's been having you on the show here. Like we said, this is a long time coming. We're both very, very excited about this particular interview, and we appreciate the hell out of you and everything you've contributed and everything that you will contribute into the future, which I know you're going to have a really, really, really long and fruitful career
Yeah, I think so.
educating us.
Thank you. It's a two-way
Yes,
street.
thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And I do think that there is a lot of potential for an upstate New York renaissance right now, because I think that there's a lot of thirst for it. And part of that is the new generation. So it's great to meet some folks. And, there's, Ithaca needs I hope what's the new spot? It was the dock.
Deep Dive.
Deep Dive. Hopefully Deep Dive is good.
Shout out to Deep Dive. What up?
Shout out Deep Dive, TJ.
TJ, Mike,
Yeah.
Jack.
And so that's something that Ithaca needed, was a venue again.
Right.
That, and there's a few, but that's been a tough one. Got to get a venue that's, or I know that maybe hopefully the plague days will be behind us to get the Ithaca DJ Fest going again. Some
Shout
of
out
these
to
other
Monkeypox,
community
though.
stuff. Yeah.
No, I don't want to give a shout out to Monkeypox.
No, edit that one.
Listen, Anthony.
Big love to both of you.
Yes, indeed,
Thank
brother,
you.
man. We appreciate the hell out of you. All right.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
Between the decks.
All right, party people. That once again, that was the interview of DJ Anthony Mansfield. So we thank him once again for giving us the time and the space and the energy. It really, really cool. I've known Anthony for a long time, and we've collaborated here and there. I've never really dug too deeply into his history. It was really cool to hear him talk about his DJ origins and some of the people that really got him started. He and I just had never actually had that conversation that deeply. So for me, that was a real treat. What did you like most about that interview?
This is an interview with someone so amazing. I could have kept speaking with him for hours, honestly. Couple things that I really enjoyed out of the conversation is him introducing me to the Burning Man Festival. The next time he goes, I'm going to be with him. That's going to happen for sure. I just know, Anthony, I know you listening to this. You got a partner.
Yeah.
Just count
Let's
us
go.
in. Count us in.
We need a Between the Decks Burning Man set.
Yes. And another thing that he touched on, what I really admire, is for the people outside of the DJ community. When you are listening to a DJ, he said something that really resonated with me. He just said, sit back and let the DJ cast a spell on you. I love that. Just, you don't have to make requests. Just for, everyone that's listening, that's outside of the community, think about when you listen to a DJ, just think about the spell that they're looking to put on you. Just let it happen.
Yes, that's words to live by, and wisdom from the master. And so take that for what it's worth, party people. Think twice about your requests. Do you really, really, really got to hear that song, or can you just let the DJ do his or her thing
That's
and
right.
take you on a journey? So, all right. So with that being said, we will see you next time, party people, here on Between the Decks, and we out. On the count of three, we say peace. 1, 2, 3.
Peace.
Between the Decks is brought to you by On the One, Central New York's first DJ center, located at the Destiny USA Mall in Syracuse, New York. Our theme music was composed by DJ Tech One. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Between the Decks wherever you listen to your podcasts. Our social media and contact info is located in the show notes. Please reach out and connect with us. Thanks for your support. Peace.